Hello everyone, and welcome to today's webinar about Macquarie University's higher degree research programs. Thank you so much for taking the time out to join us for our postgraduate virtual fair. Before we start, I'd just like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of country throughout Australia and their continuing connection to land, water and community. We pay our respect to them, their culture and elders past, present and future. So my name is Meg and I'm a current student ambassador from Macquarie University. And today we are very fortunate to have Jeanette Wade and Kate Roth, who are from the Office of Higher Degree Research and Partnerships at Macquarie University. And they will be talking to us about some of the opportunities and programs that are available to study with us. We'll be running a live Q&A and discussion throughout the presentation. So we have enabled our chat box function at the bottom of your screens. So if you do have any questions now or throughout the presentation, feel free to pop them in there and we will try and answer them as we go. And if you do miss anything from today's session, we will be releasing a recorded version of this webinar so you can catch any of the details that you may have missed. So without further ado, I will hand over to Janet to start our presentation. Thanks, Janet.
Thanks, Meg. So the topic of our session today is higher degree research, adventure and experience. And basically what we want to do is share with you the experiences of some of our Master of Research and PhD candidates, both past and present, here at Macquarie. So I'm going to hand over first to our Deputy Director of the Office of Higher Degree Research, Training and Partnerships to introduce herself to us, because interestingly, not only is she the Deputy Director, but she's also a current PhD student here at Macquarie University. So Kate.
Thanks, Janet. Lovely to meet you all this afternoon. My name is Kate Roth, the Deputy Director, as Janet has said, of Partnerships and Scholarships in Macquarie's Higher Degree Research Office. And also a candidate in the Faculty of Arts in the Department of Media, Music, Communication and Cultural Studies.
So I'm Dr. Janet Wade. I'm the HDR Coordinator in the Office of Higher Degree Research, Training and Partnerships as well. And I also graduated from Macquarie University with a PhD in Ancient History. Rahel, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi everyone, I'm Rahel. I did a PhD in sociolinguistics. So I was at the Department of Linguistics at Macquarie University and I graduated officially in 2019.
Mac,
do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name is Mac. I'm a current PhD candidate in cognitive science at Macquarie and I progressed from the Master of Research program in 2018. So I'm halfway through.
And you're also a current PhD candidate?
Yeah, so a current PhD in cognitive science. I've got 18 months left in my candidature. Yeah.
Excellent. And Meg, our student ambassador, is also a Master of Research candidate here at Macquarie University. So you've got the whole team. So Meg, do you want to just give us a quick rundown of what you're doing?
Yeah, so I'm in my second year of the Masters of Research program at Macquarie and I'm doing it through the Earth and Environmental Science Department, and my project is looking at how light pollution in Sydney Harbour is affecting the snails and things that live in the intertidal zone.
Excellent. So we have a very broad range of both Master of Research and PhD candidates, as you can see, all from different faculties, different departments, with very different degrees. I'm going to start by asking Rahel, can you tell us a little bit about your degree? Now, you just gave us a very brief introduction, but a little bit about your degree and your subject of study at Macquarie, like what you're actually doing.
Yeah, sure. So, as I said, I did my PhD at the Department of Linguistics and specifically sociolinguistics. So my project title was very short and crisp, Nationalism in Business Discourses. So I basically looked at how associations with national identity are used in the media, in marketing and in street signage to achieve certain purposes, mostly business purposes. And yeah, so I looked at a broad range of data and I actually did a thesis by publication. So it was 3 case studies that I undertook. And yeah, that made the whole project up in the end.
Sure. Sorry. So Mac, I was going to ask you a question around The completion of your Masters by Research at Macquarie, and now you're enrolled in the PhD. So I think it would be good for the audience to hear how you felt the Masters by Research prepared you for your PhD at Macquarie.
Sure. I came from Brisbane down to Sydney to start the Masters of Research after spending a couple of years in industry working for the Queensland government. And I felt that I needed to sort of pivot, gain some research skills and upskill. So the Master of Research just provided that opportunity to brush up on my research skills, explore some different topics, engage with experts in their fields, then focus and pick a topic to explore in the second year with the research thesis. And I was fortunate to sort of fall in with the great lab here, the Cognitive Ecologies lab, and meet a good supervisor. So my master's work sort of set the theory and the background lit review type work that I carried on into the PhD. So my work is focused on the cognitive aspects of the Māori haka, that, you know, dance that the All Blacks do, but it's well used beyond that. So my work uses ethnography and fieldwork to explore some of these aspects. And so the transition between the MRes and the PhD was fairly seamless for me. The MRes allowed me to explore the area, meet people down here, get comfortable with what I was doing, and that allowed me to step into the PhD already, you know, familiar with the area and what I was doing. So it was a fairly seamless transition to the PhD.
Excellent. Can I ask you, Meg, as a current Master of Research candidate who is thinking about going on to a PhD or exploring your options, how do you feel that the Master of Research, is it helping you with that decision? Can you see that it will help you with the PhD?
Yeah, definitely. My experience is quite similar to Mac's, just in my second year particularly. It's really amazing to be involved in current research and to get alongside academics and find out what they're doing, but also get really excited that your research is kind of being actively used in different settings. So particularly for my research, the government has just released some national guidelines for light pollution. So me as a young researcher, it's really exciting to be involved in kind of an evolving aspect of science. So it's definitely getting me excited about potentially pursuing a research career in the PhD. And I'm also finding I'm getting skills and making kind of connections with people to better be equipped to do something like a PhD than I probably would be if I finished just sort of my bachelor's degree.
Okay. Excellent answers, by the way. Excellent answers. Rahel, can I ask you, completely changing the subject, as an international candidate, what was it that attracted you to Macquarie University?
Yeah, I've thought about this for a little bit actually. I think it was mainly three reasons. So one thing was definitely the supervisor. So I was wanting to do my thesis in a specific subject with a specific approach, like a critical discourse analysis approach to language and how language is used. And Macquarie University had the supervisor that was very known in this area. She's an excellent scholar, Ingrid Pillar, by the way. And she has a great network as well. And so part of her network was also some people at the University of Hamburg, where I did my master's degree in Germany. And so some of the people that I worked with there previously knew her and recommended her. So that's why I chose to contact her and apply at Macquarie University. And then another reason was the generous scholarship offerings for international students. Because Macquarie University with the international main round offers very generous scholarships for citizens from any country and for candidates who are interested in any studying in any discipline. So I was able to apply for the scholarship and was successful in the end, and that was very important for me to be financially secure. And then the third reason was also the location, because Macquarie University is located in Sydney, so in the biggest city of Australia, and which is a global city and very diverse culturally and also linguistically, which for me as a linguist is very interesting. And then not only the location in Sydney, but also like on the campus that is so beautiful and has lots of different, you know, greenery around, and it's quite big. You have lots of areas to walk around and get some relaxation in during your study periods, study times. Yeah.
Thanks, Rahel. So Mac and Meg, I guess, in terms of being a domestic candidate, what's the reason for MQ? I don't know who wants to go first. Probably Mac, because that's alphabetical.
Sure. So the reason I chose Macquarie as the Australian university, I think was the question. Yeah, so I had finished honours degree in psychology in 2012. I had spent 4 years working in disability sector for the Queensland government, and I had looked into applying for PhD programs at the time, but you really had to know what you wanted to study ahead of time in order to get into those PhD programs. You needed to have somewhat of a position or know someone who was running a study. And I just wasn't sure. I had a lot of interests. I wasn't sure which way to go. The PhD offerings at the time were a bit too much of a risk, whereas the EXREL was a chance to explore some areas, gain some experience before committing to a bigger PhD project. And it was aimed at that particular field too. So I transitioned from straight psychology into cognitive science, which is a bit of a conglomerate effort to understand the mind by a bunch of different disciplines. And so for starters, Macquarie University is the only department in Australia of cognitive science, so that was there. But they were also the only ones offering EXREL program. So it made things very easy. I was like, well, I like the way that the EXREL was coursework, then theory, or rather thesis, and then the opportunity to go straight into a PhD. So the choice was fairly simple for me in that way. The move from Queensland to New South Wales was a tough decision, I got to say, but in the end it worked out okay. It's not too bad down here.
Yeah, and I think so. My experience when I finished my undergraduate degree, I was looking at a bunch of different options in terms of honours courses and at master's courses. And I was talking to a lot of people about what would be more beneficial for me as someone who wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do with my undergraduate course, which was in marine science. And I had a look at different honours programs in other universities in Sydney because I live up on the Central Coast. But I really liked that with Macquarie's Masters of Research program, I could kind of have that coursework side, which helped me to get skills and to learn more about different subject areas I might be interested in. But then the second year really allowed me to engage in research and to be a part of the kind of research community to really help me to work out what it was I wanted to do, whether research was the pathway I wanted to pursue or more at a government sort of level. So it really, had a lot of flexibility in what I could do as well in terms of subject areas. But it was also a really unique course, which stood out to me, that I could get a slightly more significant degree that could be used internationally as well. And it was just, also very convenient that I was at my home university of Macquarie.
Excellent. All very good reasons for choosing Macquarie University. I have to say very quickly that I also chose Macquarie University for the teaching staff like Rahel. So I did a PhD in ancient history, and the ancient history department is world renowned here at Macquarie University. Mac and Rahel, either of you can jump in and answer this question. Rahel, you've answered it a little bit, and I think a few people from some of the questions we're getting on the chat might be interested in this as well. In terms of support and resources, do you feel that Macquarie provides adequate resources, services and facilities to their HDR candidates? And it'd be interesting to get both perspectives as an international and a domestic candidate. And in your opinion, what have been the resources or facilities that have been most beneficial to you through your higher degree?
Do you want me to start, Meg? Okay, perfect. So yeah, maybe as an international student, what is quite important that you get, support from, I mean, probably also for a domestic student from the start when you apply, because I obviously was back in Germany when I applied. So everything went via email and the website, the information on the website. So yeah, the support staff at the higher degree research office was already really helpful, because they helped me with questions in terms of the application and how to deal with the application form and the documents and stuff like that. And then when I finally arrived, also with the whole enrollment process, from there it's already like the support staff that is involved once you enroll. And then it goes on to the faculty level, where I got assigned an office. As a PhD student at the linguistic department, everyone gets their own office space, so that's organized by the support staff. And then in addition to those administrative support staff members, what I also found really helpful was in terms of the help with the research itself. So the library has research librarians that are there for each area. So you can actually make an appointment and meet up with someone who helps you to find the resources you need in your subject area and how to browse the journals, and yeah, just deal with the whole online tools of the library. And another service I think that is really important to mention, maybe also more as an international student, is the well-being service that is accessible for free for all the high degree research students and students in general. So doing a PhD is not always super easy. It can be stressful at times, and so the staff really can help to kind of keep your goals on track and manage stress. And I think they taught me some skills that I find really helpful even now, like now that I'm done, for later on in life, just to watch out for your general well-being. And I think that's the main points that I would mention. Yeah. Mac, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, I certainly agree with everything Rahel said. One of the, I guess, best aspects of being involved in a research department is that you get to participate in different studies and trial out different methods. And that was particularly important for myself when I started, because I didn't know which methods were most suitable for the kinds of research that I wanted to do. And so in my particular field, I was able to participate in a range of studies. So I've had an fMRI, I've had an EEG, an MEG. Actually, Macquarie is one of the only universities in the country that has a child-size MEG, which is a magnetoencephalography. It's like a magnet-style version of an EEG. But yeah, so by participating in a bunch of different studies, you get experience from the participant side of things. You get to see how all of these machines and methods operate as a subject before trying to use these things yourself. And so the facilities are there, which has been great to explore. And then it's mainly through staff. So my supervisors and research group have brought me into contact with incredible academics from around the world. And we have hosted different conferences and workshops. And because Macquarie has those great international connections, we've been able to host a number of events. They've been funded. They've been greatly impactful on my education, and it's just been all around good fun. So yeah, the facilities and ability to, connect with different academics in different spaces has been really great.
One more thing that I could actually mention is are the HDR mentors. I don't know why I didn't mention them before, because they are very unique to Macquarie, I think, as well. Not all other universities have such a service. So it's a group of some Macquarie University staff members and then some current HDR students who organize events, and they are both about kind of sharing and talking about the research experience, but not only with researchers or other research candidates in your specific department, but also across other areas, basically university-wide. And then also it's about socializing, meet other people, and I think that's a very important aspect, because oftentimes the PhD journey can otherwise might be a bit lonely because everyone's working on their own project. So I think that's very important to have a place where you can meet other people and yeah, socialize and share the experience.
Thanks, Rahel. This is really, really interesting. And just for the participants to know, we are looking at your chat as we go, and we're structuring the questions a bit. So don't worry, there is a question to answer your questions coming up. We'll get to it. One of the questions is around scholarships. So I know both Mac and Rahel have scholarships from Macquarie, and maybe you could just talk about how both of you got them and how easy and or hard it was to get them. I think there's a couple of people in the room who would like to know the answer to that question. I don't know, Rahel, if you want to go first.
Okay. Oh, sure. So how easy was it to get them? So the scholarships are highly competitive. So there are a few things that are really important. You need to have a certain type of degree when you apply. So I had a master's from the University of Hamburg with a major research component, which is very important. And I also had a academic publication already when I applied. So that's taken into account as well when you apply for the scholarship. And I also, in my application, mentioned other research experiences. So I had worked as a research assistant for a professor at a university in Canada. So having those kind of experiences definitely make you a more competitive candidate as well. And yeah, I think did you ask whether, with those kind of experiences I applied, and it was very, yeah, I was going to ask whether you already asked whether it was important for me to have the scholarship, because it was. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to study overseas. So for me, it was very important to be financially covered in that way and to not have to worry about a living income. And yeah, so I'm very grateful I was successful. Mac, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so my pathway towards scholarship was slightly different as I came through the EXREL. So I was successful for scholarship in the second year of the EXREL based on the grades from the first year. And then I was successful in getting a progressing scholarship from the EXREL to the PhD based on my submitted thesis results in the second year of the EXREL. You know, I had already done an honours degree and industry and before coming to the EXREL. So I was able to get a bit of credit for coursework in the first year. However, I thought many of the courses were actually really interesting and would have been beneficial for me to do. So I took the time to do some of that coursework, and by performing well in the coursework, I got the scholarship in the second year. And then by getting a solid mark on my thesis, I was able to progress with a scholarship to the PhD. And yeah, it was crucial, helpful, all of the above. Yeah, that's my scholarship experience.
I might get both Rahel and Mac to help me on this, answering this as well. I think this is still related to scholarships. A few people have asked about how easy it is to apply, and I know that you both have experience helping people with their applications. But for anybody who doesn't know, our international main scholarship round is currently open, and the closing date for that is the 31st of July, and our domestic round will open soon. And the closing date for that is the 31st of October. That's correct, isn't it, Kate? Yes, you were giving me a look. 31st of October. So the actual application process, and I think this is where Rahel and Mac will be able to agree with me here. The application process itself is quite easy. There's information on the website. There are now detailed guides for applying. That's if you're a direct entry candidate, so coming from outside of the university. And as Mac said, as a progressing candidate, once you're at Macquarie University doing a higher degree research degree, so either the first year of the EMRES or the EMRES the second year, we do have what are called progression scholarships. So it's a slightly different round. You don't have to apply outside, but all of those are quite easy. Mac, I know the progression is quite easy to fill in the paperwork and do all that kind of the paperwork you need to do. And Rahel, could you tell us a little bit about the actual application process? Was that easy? It hasn't changed that much since you applied, to be honest.
Yeah, I must say that I found it quite straightforward. So the university website provides a lot of information about the research degree and the entry requirements, and the scholarship itself, what is required to be eligible for the scholarship. And I find our Macquarie University's website on how to apply really good, because it's basically a step-by-step guide on what you need to know and do. So from entry requirements through to how to write a research proposal, how to get in touch with a supervisor, to how to submit your application through the online form. It's all kind of on that one website on how to apply. So I can really recommend that resource. And I don't think I actually got in touch with the higher degree research admissions team before I applied, because I found it quite easily understandable. But if there are any questions left, I know that the team is really helpful in answering any questions. And yeah, so if there's anything unclear, candidates can, or like applicants can always get in touch and ask any questions they have.
Excellent. Just to change pace a little bit, I wanted to ask both Rahel and Mac, have you attended any overseas or interstate conferences as part of your Master of Research and PhD, and have they been beneficial? How do you think they've helped with your overall degree? And we'll get back to some of the other questions on the chat soon.
Maybe I'll just keep going. So I went to 2 international conferences, and one of them was in Wellington, and the other one in Hong Kong. And I thought it was really beneficial, not only applying to attend these conferences or present at these conferences, because you get the experience of writing a competitive abstract, submitting it to the conference committees, and then liaising with them about your presentation, and also organizing your travels, which was covered by the Research Enhancement Fund, which I think it's still the case that that any research candidates are assigned a certain amount of money by the departments that is meant to be used for conference visits. And yeah, so it was beneficial in terms of the experience of applying to present and attend these conferences, but also, of course, in terms of networking. So I met a lot of really interesting scholars in the field, which are not only motivating you to keep going and to think about what you want to do later on in your career, but also, yeah, I'm still in touch with some of these people that I met, and so it was very beneficial in those various aspects. And also it was very adventurous. I mean, coming back to the topic of today's presentation, adventure and experience. It wasn't only a great experience, but it was also very nice to visit these other places and have a look at 2 other very interesting cities in different countries.
Yeah, I'll just echo that. As part of my MRes and PhD, I've attended a bunch of interstate conferences. I've been to Darwin, which was very adventurous. We actually went on a bit of a hike as one day of the conference finished. Up from Canberra, you know, up to Queensland as well. And I was due to go to Scotland in July, but that one has turned into a virtual conference. So that one will be happening in a different context, but that's how these things go. But no, the conference participation, attendance is a huge part of academia. And I've been fortunate to be part of the organizing team for a number of conferences we've held here at Macquarie. And so it's been just a huge education in itself to be part of the organizing crew that goes into, you know, arranging themes and the logistics behind getting a bunch of academics in a room to talk about their research, as well as, you know, preparing your own work to present to others in that format. So yeah, it's been great to attend some conferences and engage with research that way as part of the PhD adventure.
Can I jump in here and just ask, because we're on the Master of Research and we're getting lots of questions about that, this is perhaps for you, Mac, and for Meg. Did you find, so with conferences and attending things, that the Master of Research has been helpful for that with your presentation skills, writing abstracts, that kind of thing? A couple of questions that we've had about whether there is coursework built into the Master of Research, that you both might be able to talk just a little bit about that. And those relevant skills that you learn as part of that Master of Research. So do you, either Mac or Meg, do you mind kind of addressing that a little bit, what you've found, what relevant skills you've found that you've learned from the Master of Research, and about the coursework component of that?
Sure, I can speak to the coursework. So there is coursework in the first year of the MRes. In my program, at least, it was designed in that you would have a frontier unit, which exposed you to, you know, current hot topics in your field that were taught by people that were working in those fields. So it was quite up to date, quite personable, because there's not that many people in the class and you're dealing with the person who produces research in that field. So they're quite experts in their fields. And next to that, they would have critical issues units. And for me, it was huge education, because I came into the course with certain ideas about the kind of thing that I wanted to study and how I wanted to study it. But it wasn't until participating in a particular unit led by the philosopher Richard Minari that really sort of presented me ideas that I hadn't considered before and hadn't engaged with at all. And it really gave me pause to consider how I'm going to incorporate this information moving forward. And so if I hadn't have done that course and hadn't have had that opportunity to critically look at the methods, talk to people that use them, talk to philosophers about the science behind it all, then I wouldn't have gone on to do the things that I do now. And in terms of presentation skills and writing abstracts, you definitely have ample chance to practice those kinds of things by doing coursework first. So I definitely think it made the thesis year all the easier, or all the better. And certainly now I use those skills in my PhD. Meg, do you got any?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. In my MRes course, the first year was really great because you got a mix of doing theory-based classes, so learning about how things like scientific method works, or even how to present things and different ways we can communicate science, for example. But there was also practical-based courses. So I got to do a mini little thesis project for about 6 months in the second semester, which really just helped me to engage more on the topic that I was going to pursue in my second year, as well as just kind of get familiar with the different people on campus that can help me with like lab work, or even how to get field trip permissions and those sorts of things, to just better help me prepare for the second year of study.
I think Janet, that's great. Thanks, Meg. I think Janet and I, we had a list of questions, guys, and then we were going to run through them, and then we're just trying to make it up as we go along. So, would you like me to ask the next question, or is there...
yes, if you're ready to.
Yeah, I think we were going to talk next, Rahel and Mac, about the campus and how you find the campus. Its location. I guess you haven't been here for a while, but if you can remember back 3 months ago, what it's like to be on campus at MQ.
Yeah, I'll jump in. So what I said before, what I find really unique about the campus is how green it is and how many areas it has to kind of relax in between the time that you need to be in the library and study, or in your office and work really hard. You can sit at the lake. There's a little lake on campus, and a big grassy area around it where you can actually go for a walk. So you can actually spend a lot of time walking around campus and getting a proper exercise. And then the facilities. So the library is very new. I don't know when it was built actually, but it's brand new to me. And it has some nice study areas inside. And for research students, it actually has a whole floor on the 5th floor that can only be accessed by research students with a special card. And yeah, so that's very nice because you get your own kind of quiet space, unless you have an office, or even for a change, sometimes it's nice to go into the library. So yeah, that's the main points, and the connection to the train line. So I actually lived in the city center, so not very close to campus, but it was very easy to get to Macquarie because I just jumped on the train, and at the time it was a direct one train that got me to campus, and now it's even quicker because it's a train and then you swap into the metro, which is the very fast train, and then it's just a short walk because Macquarie has its own station. Yeah. Mac, anything to add?
Yeah. I hate a long commute. So I actually live right next door to campus, and I quite enjoy it out here. Macquarie Park, Macquarie Centre is nice and removed from like the crazy hustle and bustle if you head towards the city. So I really like it for that reason. Plus it's actually quite leafy, and there's just at the back of my house, there's nice bushlands I get to go walk through, which is important to me. And so, yeah, that takes me right up to campus, and it's a nice place to walk around. And I was fortunate to have an office through my department, which is part of the Australian Hearing Hub. And it's this nice swanky building, nice climate controlled and facilities. So yeah, the campus is great. I've heard that the arts building, the arts faculty has been finished, and I hear wonderful things about it. So I'm looking forward to getting back to campus to checking out how that looks, because I know they've done a mass upgrade to that whole sector of the campus. So that'll be cool to see.
Excellent. We've got a few more questions for Rahel and Mac that we've prepared, but I just wanted to jump in and ask, a few people have asked about the difference between masters and a master's of research. And again, Mac and Meg, you might be able to help a little bit here, because you chose a Master of Research over a Master's. But Kate, do you have anything that you want to say about that in particular? So I would say the Master of Research is more, it's targeted at preparing you for further research. Generally, if you enjoy research, the Master of Research and a PhD is for you. But does anybody else have anything else they would like to add about that? There have been a few questions about that. Mac or Meg? Mac, did you think about doing a Master's?
Yeah, I did. You know, this one's a bit discipline specific in that when I was graduating out of psychology, it used to be the case that you would either do a Master's or a PhD because they were both pathways to registration depending on what area you wanted to go into. Whereas I was in the position that I knew I wanted to do research, but didn't exactly know what area, and cognitive science had enough flexibility for me to enter into it and then find you know, my niche. And so the EXREL was exactly, you know, it's a pathway course to a PhD or a research career, and it had the nice combination of research-oriented coursework and then thesis year, whereas a lot of the straight master's courses are either all coursework or the research thesis part is like a small add-on as part of a coursework sort of thing, and they didn't have that in cog science anyway. So for me it was an easy choice because it was like, okay, I've got this opportunity to test out some coursework in these fields and you know, figure out what I want to do, and then try it out in a thesis form. And if I'm happy with where I'm going, then I can go on to the PhD. And so that's what I did.
Perfect. Just on that, somebody asked about whether the Master of Research is available to do via correspondence. And that really does depend on your department and faculty and what subjects they offer. So one of the questions, Mac, was somebody else who's from Brisbane would be interested in doing it, but it's not an option of moving. So that is something that you would need to check that the actual units available within the department or faculty. So it does differ between different faculties. I'm going to go back and just quickly ask Rahel. We're running out of time and we've got a few questions. But Rahel, can you tell us what the best part of your postgraduate experience at Macquarie University has been, and was the overall experience rich and rewarding?
Yeah, definitely a yes. So it has been very rich and rewarding because of probably the people that I've met. Not only my supervisor, who is an amazing academic, but also of all my peers here at Macquarie. So I made a lot of good friends who I, you know, will definitely keep in touch with, and yeah, I think that I can draw on further down the track also in my career. I mean, I'm not absolutely sure yet whether it's going to be academia or not. But a lot of things evolve out of networks, I think, and I've already made that experience in some ways, and I've made a lot of good friends that I had really interesting discussions during the PhD, and that were really helpful in, you know, doing the thesis and getting it done in the end, but also that I still draw, like I still draw on these people as friends and colleagues now. So in that way, it has been a very rich experience in terms of the people that I've met.
Perfect. Mac, would you like to answer the same question?
Sure. Yeah, it's my answer is probably very much in line with Rahel's. Yeah, it's the people you meet and the places you go. In my case, in particular, the course that I mentioned earlier with Richard Minari introduced me to some other people that are interested in similar things that I am. And we went on to form a reading group out of that course, which was 4 years ago now. And through that fortnightly reading group, we've been able to host a number of workshops, get international academic visitors to present at our workshops. We've been able to have some great consistent meetups that are all around topics that we share interests, and it's just from having done this one course with some people sometime. So that's been really cool. The best parts, yeah, are really probably in those that I find in my field in particular. It's the small moments where I'll be at the kitchenette area of the department making a coffee, and then a group of colleagues or students or academics walk past, and you hear German, you hear Dutch, you hear Japanese, China, because the whole place is just teeming with different cultures and languages in particular. So it's just a really cool sort of moment to be a part of when you're getting paid to study something you're interested in and hopefully get some qualifications afterwards. So yeah, that's the best part. People, places.
I think it's me, Janet, is that right? Or were you flicking back to me? Was that nod? Sure, so I also just wanted to point out a little thing about the MRes. So the Masters by Research program at Macquarie is kind of split into an international and a domestic component. So if you're a domestic candidate, you can easily transition from your undergraduate degree through what we call the Bachelor of Philosophy. So some of you are looking at coursework into the Masters. If you're a domestic candidate, you will need to start looking at our Bachelor of Philosophy. That gives you then the coursework component that Mac was talking about, which is essentially for an international candidate, the MRes Year 1. The MRes Year 2 is the thesis component. If you're going to jump straight into an MRes Year 2, you're going to have pretty much a pretty advanced standard of coursework to get into the MRes Year 2, but not quite enough to get into the PhD. To get into the PhD directly, it's even harder and more like what Rahel was talking about. So I hope that kind of I hope that's clear. I'm not sure it's entirely clear, but for a domestic candidate, you follow the route Bachelor of Philosophy, MRes Year 2, then PhD. Those scholarships for that particular pathway are set as scholarships that particular way. If you're going to jump into MRes Year 2 or jump into the PhD, scholarships are set competitively and you have to apply as part of the main round. It's a slightly different process. And the main round is what Janet has mentioned for the international candidates is now open, and for domestic candidates will open soon. So you can check our website for those details. Scholarship search HDR at Macquarie will get you those details. And depending on where you jump into the program, will depend on the level of supervisor commitment you need to have in advance and faculty commitment you need to have in advance. So if you're looking, I think there's another question there about who's the best to talk to. In the case, it's probably finding the head of department or the faculty HDR person. So in the case of education, well, so I know somebody's asking a question about studying hearing with the Royal Institute for Deaf and Blind Children, which we have on our campus. You could talk to two different people depending on your focus. So the faculty HDR in medicine, health and human sciences will look after more the linguistic side of the degree. If you're looking more at the educational aspects of it, you would then talk to the faculty HDR in the Faculty of Arts. So it just depends on your focus. I would suggest writing to both of them because that maximizes your chances there. Is there anything else that's jumping up? I think the thing is when you're coming, if you're not doing the full program with Macquarie, the scholarships are very, very competitive. So it's up to you about which one that's best for you to apply to. But I would suggest for domestic candidates to have a look at the BPhil and MRes. If you've done a Masters by Coursework already, please talk to the faculty also about how complementary that is to the MRes Year 2. So it is possible to go straight into an MRes Year 2, but you're going to have some kind of research experience as part of your previous study in higher education. So I hope that helps. I think we were going to have, maybe I could skip to the last question there, Janet, given that we've only got 10 minutes. Just Rahel and Mac, about some of our additional student associations that are on campus. Have you joined any? Which ones were they, and are they any good? I think that's kind of important for people who are planning to study at Macquarie to understand the involvement.
I actually haven't. So I haven't actually joined any of the academic associations because I had such a closely knit group through my supervisor. She had I think we were 10 candidates at the time when I was doing my PhD, and we had a bi-weekly reading group. So that was a lot of support for me there. Yeah. So did you, Mac? Do you have anything?
No, so I didn't join any existing student associations, though. As I answered before, I kind of made my own with the Culture and Cognition reading group. Though one of my favorite times of year is when they have open week and they have all the student association stalls placed all around campus, because there's hundreds of them, and you can be in everything from the Disney Appreciation Society right through to all the sports and all the other kinds of associations. So there's lots going on. But no, I didn't join any in particular myself.
Yeah, I think there are also several language clubs. So if you are interested in speaking, I actually thought about joining the Italian club because I speak a lot of Italian, a little bit of Italian, and I thought maybe I can improve my skills if I join this club, but then in the end I didn't. So
that's okay. It's because your experience was so rich and rewarding anyway, without those, exactly. Without the
yeah. Yeah. And I did other things at Macquarie that maybe worth mentioning in addition. So I got the opportunity to teach, for example. I was teaching for a while at the German department, and I was involved in marking a little bit at the linguistics department as well. So yeah, I think that maybe speaks to the fact that there are lots of opportunities if you are a research candidate at Macquarie University.
Definitely. I'm thinking maybe we have a few extra questions here that haven't been answered, and they're very quick and easy to answer. Somebody's asked, if you're doing a Master of Research, do you also need to apply for a scholarship? Definitely not. You are, of course, welcome to, but you don't have to apply for a scholarship. You don't have to do that. Somebody's asked about, do you have to have a faculty member who has agreed to supervise you before, during the application process? If you're applying for the PhD, yes. If you're applying for the first year of the Master of Research, you don't need to, because it's not assumed that you know what you want to write your thesis about in the MRes Year 2. So you don't have to. It's always a good idea to contact the faculty HDR office, as Kate said earlier, to ask, if you're interested in particular departments, particular research. It's certainly worthwhile to contact them. But for the first year of the Master of Research, you are not expected to have found an actual supervisor to supervise your second year. That's something that the Master of Research, I think you can probably help with this here, Mac, but that's something that in the first year, as you said, you get an idea of what you're thinking about doing for your research, and then you get an idea of what supervisor aligns with your particular interests. True?
Yeah, that's right. I would expect this to be true for other departments and disciplines, but as part of my first year of the MRes, built into one of the second semester units was the task to prepare a research proposal, which you do in consultation with academics in your field. And so doing that assignment is basically preparing for the thesis year, and that's when you get to just go and meet academics who do similar work and ask them, is this a good project? Should I do it this way? What do you think? Can we work together? And so that's how I did it, and I think that's a really neat way to meet academics and figure out if you get a rapport and whether it'll be a good relationship to see your research through.